Sometimes the world looks like you ain't ever seen it before. Stuck behind never-ending windows, all you need is a door. Searching for something to put a smile back on your face. Just remember, in unusual times, it can come from an unusual place. You need a partner for the ride, 'cause everybody needs a Clyde. So set your worries to the side. Just ask, say the word and I'll be there. Just ask, you know the greatest things in life all come in a pair. They say hindsight's 20/20, but that ain't far enough behind me. So if you want the sweetest honey, I think hindsight's 1990. There's no need to pretend I got a hand I can lend, 'cause when you really need a friend, just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.
Are you ready to slay another day? So are we. Welcome back to Shit 90 Shows Taught Me. I'm Jess Sterling here with my co-host, Sara Fergenson. Sarah, how are you?
Jess, doesn't it just suck when you come back and you think everybody's just going to throw you like a surprise party, and then it just becomes like a absolute like ream fest? It's awful. God awful.
Really was a pile-on for Buffy this episode. I mean, I don't blame her for wanting to run away again after everyone's just yelling at her, embarrassing her in front of like the whole school or just randos she doesn't even know. Mm-hmm. This was terrible. I felt really bad for Buffy, but this also felt like an episode that you kind of needed it, or you at least needed the Scoobies to have it out with Buffy. You needed them to air the grievances so that next episode where we're all back together, the crew is happy again, and we can go fight vampires again.
Yes, that is true. We do love an airing of the grievances.
We love the drama, and we love an airing of grievances in a party a la Dawson's Creek.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I feel as though like it was really hard for me to not side with Buffy throughout the entire episode, because I was trying to be more of a like objective observer and like give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But there was just like some things that just like really irked me. And about how her friends were acting, and like especially Willow. I felt like Willow was being such like a bitchy little thing, but I also hear her points and see like what she's talking about. So we'll have to break it down and talk about everybody's grievances. Mm-hmm. But overall, did you enjoy episode 2 of season 3 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer? The name of which I do not know.
Dead Man's Party.
Dead Man's Party.
It was fine, I think, is where I land on it. Like, it wasn't good. It wasn't bad. I mean, zombies, whatever, you know, like maybe I'm just zombied out, you know, this was in the 90s, but now in today's day and age, there's so many zombie things. Like The Walking Dead had like 7,000 seasons. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of over zombies at this point. And
how many Walking Dead seasons have you watched?
Not anywhere near the number that they had. I think I gave up after Glenn went under that dumpster. I think that was when I was like, I think I'm done here.
Yeah, I didn't mind when Glenn went under the dumpster. I thought that it was needed, to be honest with you.
You definitely have never seen The Walking Dead.
I have not.
Yeah, I figured. So what about you? How overall feelings on this season 3, episode 2 of Buffy?
As somebody who has said that they don't really mind the monster or the week format, I just like could not give a shit about this Nigerian mask that resurrected dead people to come and the cats and everything. I really, really was into the drama of it all. I was really interested in the personal dynamics of the Scoobies and the fact that like the Scoobies that were left behind in Sunnydale were negatively impacted by Buffy just disappearing and not giving any idea of where she went. And I really enjoyed the fact that Buffy was, you know, struggling. Like it was definitely awkward, and the whole thing like honestly reminds me a lot of like when you lose somebody that's close to you, like a parent. Sometimes your friends just don't know how to act around you. I feel like we probably saw this a little bit with Dawson. I'm trying to remember, like Joey was like kind of like babysitting him for a little bit. And she's like, just people just don't know how to react when somebody is going through something. So at first I thought that this was a case of this, like Buffy's friends don't know how to act around Buffy. But in reality, it really was like, we're kind of mad at you and we kind of don't want to hang out one-on-one with you. And that's so sad because, I don't know, Buffy's a loser.
It did feel like high school. Like this is how high schoolers would react in this situation, because it was very passive aggressive. No one is going up to Buffy in the beginning and saying, hey, what you did really hurt my feelings. Like the fact that you didn't call, that you weren't here, that you left and you didn't contact any of us. We didn't know if you were alive or dead. That sucked. Like no one does that. Everyone tries to play it off. Like they really are kind of gaslighting Buffy and being like, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. And it kind of sucks. It just feels like, yes, both can be true. What Buffy did sucked and was hard on her friends, especially because they've been doing the slaying in her absence and they don't have the abilities she has. So of course that can be true, but it can also be true that Buffy was going through it. Like not only did her boyfriend get sucked into hell, she's the one who killed him and sent him there. And also her mom told her to leave and never come back. Like, or that if you're going to leave, don't come back. So that sucks too. You know, like I think a little bit more like compassion, empathy for Buffy wouldn't have been a bad thing, especially Xander. He really lit into her. And Sarah, you know me. I think the problem is I don't care, like yell at your friends and, you know, hash it out in that way. If that's how you communicate and everyone's okay with it, that's how you communicate. Do not yell at me in front of a big party. That is so embarrassing. And I mean, how do you feel about the party itself? Like, were the Scoobies wanting a big party so that they didn't have the like intimacy of a small dinner?
That's how I read it. Like, okay, so the thing is that like, I'm thinking even last semester, Buffy wasn't really interested in having like a big rager. I'm trying to remember. It was either the first or the second season. And it's just like slipping away from my memory. But I feel like she kind of got thrown into a party and she kind of felt uncomfortable with that too. Maybe Buffy in yesteryear when she was living in LA and she was more of a party girl. But I think that it was, we don't want the intimacy of having a party one-on-one because it's going to turn into what it ultimately came down to. But I also think that it wasn't like malicious. I think that like they wanted her to feel welcome, but I definitely feel as though like Giles had it right at first. Like he's like, I just think that we should have like a sit down. And I think that that is what Buffy really wanted. Like Buffy wanted to make sure that like her friends still cared about her, and this big rager with a ton of people that Buffy didn't even know and didn't know Buffy show up. And what seems to be at first like a really nice gesture just turns into something that's like inauthentic and nobody's actually there for her. They're just there to party, which really stinks. What did you make of the party itself?
I felt really bad for Buffy. Like, the party would have been really fun and cool if it was like just a random party, or if it was something Buffy even remotely wanted, in terms of like it's Buffy's birthday, or we're celebrating the return of Buffy, and like and it was a welcome return and everyone was excited.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it felt like you said, it felt like a mask, which is kind of, parallel to this whole mask storyline, where it's like everyone's wearing a mask. Everyone is pretending that everything is fine, that Buffy wasn't gone for a few months, that everything is just back to the way it was. And it stinks. Especially if you're going to have a party like this for Buffy, at least invite people that know her, that know why they're there, right? She like runs into a guy who like doesn't even understand what they're celebrating. It just all felt wrong. And Buffy just looks so sad the entire time. Joyce is like, listen, I will get on Joyce's case for so many reasons this episode, but like inviting an adult friend for her to have over there does make sense, because like
that's fine.
That was totally fine. But like also, I felt like there was like a ton of drinking and stuff happening at this party, which is completely, I'm not like shaming Joyce for allowing teenagers to drink in her home. It's more so that is completely the opposite of the way we've seen Joyce parent from the beginning. And it doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
The question for me is like, did Joyce realize that this was happening? Because under her assumption, she was having a dinner party with Giles and the Scoobies. And then she invited her friend over to this dinner. And then next thing she knows, like, because Buffy obviously didn't know either. I think that it just became like in classic 90s show fashion. It just like, it blew up and all these randos came in, and like, yeah, I guess Joyce could have been like, get out of my house. Like, we're not having a party. But Joyce is also trying to navigate Buffy and like trying to placate her and like act like the cool mom or like the good mom, or like trying to get things like quote unquote back to normal. We see her in the very first scene where Buffy like gets her jacket on to leave the house. There's like a little bit of, hey, can I leave? And Joyce is like, you're leaving? Like, can I drive you? Like, I think that everybody is trying to like navigate what is normal now, especially with 2 to 3 months where Buffy was gone and everybody was trying to like figure out a new normal. So I don't really think Joyce intentionally had this happen, but she didn't stop it, which was also interesting. I just think that it was just like a big miss on the Scoobies. In general, I understand. I think that like they were just being avoidant. Like, I think that they didn't want to have an intimate talk, because they knew if it was going to be a more intimate setting, it would turn into something that wound up being like 5-on-1, which is ultimately like what happened. But the issue is that it was so public in front of, like, once again, all these people that don't know Buffy. Half these people don't even know Buffy's name. When Giles called to try to warn about the stupid mask, there was a guy that picked up the phone and like couldn't even put 2 and 2 together that he was asking for somebody named Buffy. He was like, buddy. It's like, do you even know whose house you're at, bro? Like, I don't think so. Yeah. And I think like a part of this problem is that Willow got Oz and his band to play. So then it really just became like a house band party, which I think Willow just wanted to thirst trap after Oz, because that scene really annoyed me as well. When like Buffy was trying to talk to Willow or like ask her if they were okay, and fucking Willow was like having a huge hard on for Oz and wasn't even paying attention to her. That really annoyed me. I think that's when I was like the most annoyed with Willow, and in addition to that, Buffy was like, hey, are we okay? And Willow did the thing that is so annoying, especially because I've been in this situation too, where I feel like the vibes are off and it bothers me. Like, it really, really bothers me when there's unresolved business between me and my friend and I know something is wrong. So then I'm like, hey, like, are we okay? Or like, there's been instances where I'm like, hey, like, I'm sorry for like the disconnection on my end. And then the other person fucking gaslights me, and it's like, no, we're fine, like everything's fine. And it's like,
Yeah.
clearly we're not, because I am not a moron and I can tell when something is wrong between two people. So don't tell me that like it's not okay. If you don't want to talk about it because you're not ready, that's perfectly fine. But at least say, hey, I hear you. I feel it too. I'm not ready to talk about it. Don't tell me that we don't have issues when there's clearly issues. I've had this problem multiple times with girls, and I think it's just because at times I've been more emotionally available than my friends, and that really stinks. And that was the thing between Buffy and Willow in this moment. And I personally got really offended for Buffy because that really, really irked me with how dismissive Willow was to Buffy in that moment. Even though it was a loud party, and even though she was focused on slobbering over Oz, and just being a freaking thirsty bitch, like seriously, like, and it just so annoys me. And then after that, when Buffy goes upstairs, because like she's like, nobody fucking gives a crap about me, Willow is like, you stupid whore, how dare you pack up your stuff to leave? It's like, well, you just didn't pay attention to me. I was just asking if we were okay, if we can have a moment. Am I alone on this island?
No, it just felt bad. Like that's how it felt. And again, we are talking about this as 30-something-year-old women who are fairly emotionally aware, emotionally mature enough to say, hey, the vibes are off. Something's going on. Please, can we just have a conversation about it? I think it's two things. And this is me giving Willow the benefit of the doubt and like saying, okay, it's possible that one, she's not emotionally mature yet. She's a teenager, right? She's going to have feelings and not know how to deal with them. But part of me feels like Willow doesn't do well with confrontation and doesn't like being angry with her best friend and doesn't know how to say that to Buffy. And so instead of just saying, you hurt my feelings and it was hard while you were gone and you've missed a lot and I wanted to call you so many times, but I didn't know how, but you knew how to call me and you didn't. Like, instead of just vocalizing those feelings, which are real, valid, fair, you know, all of those things are very fair, she pretends everything's okay because she doesn't know what else to do. That's how I read it coming from Willow at the very least. I think Willow is one of the more like sensitive members of the Scoobies, and also someone who wants to be happy with their friends and really struggles if she's not, which is relatable to me. Like, I find it very difficult to be angry with my friends. I don't know how to confront something like that. It's really, really easy to be angry with like a family member or a significant other. But like, when it comes to my friends, I want my friendships to be like happy and light and fun. And when they're not, it's really hard. And that's how I feel like Willow at the very least is handling this. I just wish I'm so with you in that I know exactly the moment you're talking about when Buffy wants to pull her aside and Willow says like, yeah, and then like doesn't follow her. It sucked. It really sucked. It sucks, especially because this isn't just any party. This is a party they were throwing for Buffy at her house. Allegedly. And yet like she's the guest of honor. And yet she can't get anyone to like spend time with her, right? Like Xander and Cordy are like just like making out, kind of just ignoring her. Like it really sucks. And I understand them being upset with Buffy. They're justifiable in that like anger and hurt, but the way they go about handling it really sucks. Especially, I mean, we can talk about when Willow goes up and finds Buffy packing. I really didn't like that she's like ratting her out to Joyce and like siding with Joyce. Like, to a certain extent, I get it. Like all of the Scoobies plus Giles and Joyce are on the side of like, Buffy left us. Like, we don't want her to leave again, but also what she did sucks. but like be on your friend's side, you know, like it's just like, it's shitty.
Yeah.
It's super shitty.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely a side of Willow that we haven't really seen before, which I commend her for evolving and like standing up for herself. I'm like especially thinking of, you know, in the moments further, like we see like a sassier version of her, even at the end when they were like calling each other names. Like I do like that part of Willow. Like I do like that Willow is not just what I would have thought at first glance, just like a pushover. But it was a side of Willow that irked me because I don't know, like it just I just feel as though like I know this social situation. I've experienced it and it's just like really freaking annoying, especially I mean, eventually they were able to talk it out, which is great. But it's just like really maddening when you're just like, tell me what's going on. And you just like, you don't get the response. Like you don't get the feedback. And then, yeah, but like with the two of them, like they were after like the big blow up, they were able to have, and furthermore, actually, I forgot this part where she totally ditches Buffy. Like they are supposed to go shopping at the mall and she's like a no-show.
That was so awful. She doesn't even show up. And like she doesn't even like, I mean, they don't have cell phones, but like she calls after the fact. Like it feels like such a blow off. And that's hard to, you miss your friends after months and months of away. You come back and they like immediately blow you off. Like it's so brutal.
Yeah. And like, even before that, Buffy was like, hey, like Willow, do you want to hang out tonight or tomorrow night? And Willow was like, ooh, I can't. And then Xander did the same thing. Like I have other plans. It's just like, no wonder Buffy felt like nobody wanted her there and that she didn't have anybody and that they were like better off without her. I think that it's like so impossible to not feel that way with how everybody's treating. However, I forget, like, do you think like between Willow and Buffy, like what ultimately got fixed was like the big fight, then like the kicky punchy fight, and then like all the tension got released and they were able to like sit down, break bread, and like kind of talk out what was going on?
Yeah, it seems like it's this is why you have to say your feelings and say your thoughts, because if you don't, they just like bubble up and explode in this way.
Yeah,
but it is like a pressure release at a certain, you know what I mean? Like she was able to say all of those things. And then they were able to like have that moment where they just call each other names for a minute, which I thought was very funny. And that was like healing for them, I think. I think Willow got to say what she was feeling, which is you haven't been around. Like I've been practicing to be a witch and you haven't even been here for it. Like I have a boyfriend now who's a werewolf, by the way. Like this is all a lot and I need my best friend. And that's the vibe I was getting from Willow, is she's punishing Buffy because Buffy hasn't been around in a time where she's really needed her. And that stinks, obviously, because like we said, we can joke that like, a phone is a two-way communication device, but not if no one knows where to contact Buffy. Buffy had the ability to call her people and she didn't. So yeah, I thought this was super fascinating. I will give Joyce some credit and say, I liked that Joyce had the idea of inviting over. Can I just say, I don't know why it cracked me up so much, but every time Joyce said Mr. Giles, I fucking died. Mr. Giles it was so formal. Mr. Giles.
Mr. Giles. Well, it's like I sometimes forget that Giles's first name is Rupert. So
yeah, he's just Giles. Reminder.
He's just Giles. Yeah. I mean, yeah, this was a really good move by Joyce. It kind of it satisfies a lot of things. Number one, Buffy's under her roof, which means that she's closer to her, which means that in Joyce's mind, she's safe. Number two, she can meet with the Scoobies herself and Giles and like kind of get more insight about the dynamic that will absolutely make her feel better about everything, especially the slaying, which Joyce does remember and does take seriously now, and like quote unquote allows Buffy to do. And she even understands the fact that this wasn't necessarily a choice that Buffy made, which I thought was great progress, because I mean, yes, she alluded to Buffy like needing like special privileges, like the kid that gets extra time on their math tests. And that didn't make Buffy feel very good. But at least she understands that this is a little out from control. And in an ideal world, she would get passes. And then finally, like she understands like her daughter has been struggling a little bit to reconnect with her friends, and inviting them over in a more formal situation. Absolutely. It just like checks off a lot of boxes.
Yeah. So I loved this move from Joyce, to have people over, to make them feel welcome, to understand Buffy better. I love this whole move. And I don't know. We get the whole, again, we've kind of been like talking around it, I guess, but like there's this Nigerian mask. It turns out that it's like raises zombies from the dead. Raises.
I truly just could not give a shit,
because it doesn't matter. It's all just it's dress. What is it? Dress setting. Was that it? Dress setting. What's it called when like it's just like table setting for the rest of everything happening? Like it doesn't matter. It's behind the scenes sort of thing. It's like, who cares? It's just background dressing. You know what I mean? It's just like
background noise,
set dressing. Like it's like a curtain. It's a chair. It's nothing.
Okay.
But so we have like zombies, and Giles is like looking into it. Again, kind of who cares? It was really fun though when they all start like. When they all start coming into the Summers residence, and they're like breaking windows and they're climbing in, and Buffy's idea is, let's just throw this one out the front door and then hold the front door closed. It's like, ma'am, they're coming in everywhere. And my favorite was when they're like, oh my God, everybody run. And Oz is being yanked out the window, and they all ditch him and run upstairs.
So let me so this mask is some sort of art mask that got sent because of the museum or the gallery that
it was
Joyce,
a gift or something. Yeah.
And it resurrects the dead. So all of these animals and dead people they just want the mask. They don't necessarily want to kill alive people. They just will kill people that are alive if they get in the way. And that's what happened with Joyce's book club buddy, right? Like that was
right. They want the mask. They want to put the mask on, because if they put the mask on, they become some sort of demon lord or something like that.
Who's not a demon at this point?
Everyone's a demon. That's the thing. Everyone is a demon. Yeah. Honestly, I thought Pat might be evil when we first were introduced to her. I thought I was like immediately suspicious of her.
No, she's not evil. She just wants to read in her book club. She's a casualty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Like, once again, this is why we don't steal art from countries of origin, because this is their art. It is literally cursed, and we need to stop the chaos. I just feel as though like Joyce should be wary of anything that comes into her facilities. And that mask looked freaking evil. Like, I've never seen a more evil mask than that one. In my opinion, sure, it was hand carved beautifully, but you would not find me touching that mask in any figure. In fact, like one time, at work, the girl that like was the cleaning girl, for like the work, like she cleaned the gallery a little bit. She brought me this little doll, and it turned out to be a fertility doll. No, and I was like, I just feel like this little fertility doll has a whole lot of power. It was like from like Portugal or somewhere. And I was like, I just like feel as though this is too much responsibility for me to own.
Yeah, I get you. I wouldn't want it. Yeah. No. Okay, I want to talk next about the conversation leading up to the party about the difference between a gathering, a shindig, and a hootenanny, because Oz saying this did crack me up. Oz says a gathering is brie mellow song stylings. A shindig is apparently dip, less mellow song stylings, perhaps a large amount of malt beverage, and a hootenanny is chock full of hoot and just a little bit of nanny.
Okay, I don't know what is like the nannies. Like, is this like when you bring your nannies from? I don't know what I've never heard of a hootenanny.
I feel like the party gets larger with each step up. So a gathering is small, a shindig is like a little bit bigger, and then a hootenanny is like a full blown like rager.
Okay, I think that's exactly what is going on. Like, if you replace the hootenanny word with rager, then I would totally follow what we're talking about. And I think that's accurate. Like, gathering is like, I would say like a small like dinner party type thing where you have like hors d'oeuvres and you have like maybe you have like a sit down dinner, maybe you have like you bring in pizzas, like, or something. Like, it's a little bit more casual. A shindig is like maybe 20 to 30 people. It's like you have music that's lively, you have like drinks, and then like a rager is like 50 plus people if it's in the house, 100 and something people or more if it's in some sort of other setting. And it's like full on raging, loud music, big crowds, drinks, like you're getting the beer spilt on the front of your shirt from the guy that's in front of you. Like that's the tiers. And I think this party was supposed to be a gathering, which turned into what I believe is halfway between a shindig and a rager.
I agree. I think when the zombies show up, then it's a rager. I think pre-zombies, it's a shindig.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I agree. And it feels so avoidant of the Scoobies to be like, she doesn't want to talk about her problems. We don't want to talk about the fact that she left us high and dry for a few months. Let's just have a big party. That'll make her feel welcome. And Giles does push back. He's like, I don't know, like she just got home. Like she probably wants something more intimate, but they don't want intimacy. They want the opposite of intimacy. And I think that as soon as Willow says, Oz, why doesn't your band play? Then it immediately jumps from gathering to nearly hootenanny. You know, when you're adding a band into the situation, you may be like slightly bypassing shindig.
Yeah, like his band especially, because his band's like very like punk rock type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I feel as though Giles really was correct in this situation, and they basically called him an old and said that you don't know shit.
They're like, it's a democracy and we just outvoted you. So
I do love the continuation of Cordelia only volunteering to make dip. She's like, yes! I don't cook, I stir. And I'm like, facts, Cordelia. I support you in all of your stirring endeavors.
And everyone loves dip. Like, it's a party. It's a crowd pleaser. A, it's easy. B, crowd pleaser. C, it's a very, the only downside to dip is it is not like a finger food, like a little bite of something is, because you need a plate to put the dip on and then dunk the chip in. You can't just pop one in your mouth and pass through the party, you know?
You can, like, you could take one chip and then dip and then eat it, or one like receptacle,
I guess.
Like one.
But I love this about Cordelia. Stick. I love that this is a thing for her and that she feels very strongly about it. Yeah.
She says, I will not cook, I will stir. That is what I can do.
Yeah. And so again, the shindig, the hootenanny happens. And can we talk a little bit about Xander's confrontation with Buffy? Because we talked a lot about Willow and Joyce and all them, but this is really interesting where, first of all, Xander has a code name Nighthawk. How do we feel about Nighthawk?
I think it's cool. Like I fully support Cordelia, where the cool nickname plus the like slaying equals like an increase in Xander's hotness. So yes. I back Cordelia with that.
Yeah. I loved this. They're like making out as Buffy is like trying to have a conversation. And again, he's kind of blowing her off. Oh, everyone's so excited to have you back. Look at everyone. They love you. And it's just then when they realized Buffy was trying to like run away or packing to run away again, and Joyce is yelling at her and Willow is yelling at her, or Willow's there, I guess. Xander really jumps in and defends Joyce to Buffy. Like, oh, well, you should have seen what you put her through. And he calls her selfish and stupid for running away. You didn't even talk to anyone. And Buffy, again, like, Buffy is in the wrong here. This isn't the first time, Sarah, where Buffy has claimed, I'm the only one who can deal with this. I have to deal with things on my own. Like, no one can help me. Only I can help me. She does it here too. I can imagine this is kind of frustrating if you're her friend to hear.
Oh, yeah, I totally think so. It's interesting what Xander's gripe is, where I understand where Willow comes from, because she felt like she needed her best friend and was left high and dry. I feel like Xander's issue is more so like a issue of Buffy's safety and like not knowing where she is and having to worry that she's like dead in a ditch somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Because it's not like Xander's like, you know, it's almost like he's mad for everybody else. Like, he's mad for Joyce. He's mad for Willow. He's mad for Giles. Like, and then he's just mad because like he doesn't know where Buffy is, so he can't help protect her. So it's like, I mean, it's less like personal in a way. I don't know. Like, do you think, like, besides that, do you have any understanding of what Xander was upset about in his mind? Because in my mind, it's mostly like, I didn't know where you were and I was worried sick.
It feels like Xander's almost the mouthpiece for everyone else that's upset that Buffy left, because, I mean, I think he's resentful of the fact that he's had to do the slaying without her there. I think he's upset that she hurt Willow's feelings. He has like immense loyalty towards Willow. I think it's mostly those things. Mm-hmm. I just think what Xander says really minimizes what Buffy went through, right? He's like, just because you had a breakup doesn't mean you have to like leave town. It's like, okay, Xander, it was a bit more than a breakup. Like, she got expelled from school and simultaneously had to kill her boyfriend, who was a serial killer. So like, that is tough. And I feel like him saying, oh, well, you just had a breakup, like, get over it, is really, really tough and like kind of unfair. And I think, you know what I think my biggest issue is though, Sarah? I think everybody has valid points. I think the problem is they're all piling onto her, like at the same time and in a very public setting. And I feel like that's too much.
Yeah, I think like, knowing you as my close friend, like I think the pile-on would be the most upsetting aspect to you.
Well, yeah, you feel like you're I mean, she already felt pretty fucking isolated, right? Like we know Buffy. Buffy literally has said, I'm the only one who could do this. I'm the only one who can work through things like by myself, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. You're going to further isolate her by piling on and all basically ganging up on her in a very, very public setting where you can't, I mean, you can say the truth, but you have to be kind of careful about what you're saying because there are so many people listening. Like, I would feel terrible if I'm Buffy. I think the better move is, even if you're going to pile on her, which still sucks, do it in a room like by yourselves. Don't do it in such a public setting. I felt bad for her because I feel like, again, he was kind of minimizing what she was doing, like what she went through, while also it feels almost like this is a weird comparison. But like, it's almost like Buffy went on a trip for the summer and then she came back and the whole dynamic of the friend group had changed, where it's like, oh, wait, what? I'm on the outs now? When did this happen? And obviously Buffy made the choice to leave, so it's a little different, but it still felt shitty. It felt shitty for her. I did love Cordelia being queen of comedic relief. When she tells Xander, like, wait, put yourself in her shoes. And then she's like, well, Buffy's a freak of nature. And she like picks a freak of nature for a boyfriend. And then he turns out to be like a serial killer. And Buffy's like, get out of my shoes, please stop it.
like you were literally not helping the situation at all. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just sucked because everyone is yelling at her. And of all people, again, 90% of them are teenagers, right? Like, I understand it. You got big feelings, you got big emotions, you got to get them out. It's going to happen. You've been forcing them down. You know, the pot boils over. Joyce, though, girl, you are like a 40-something-year-old woman. You should know better. Pull your daughter aside and have a conversation with her. Don't start screaming at her in front of her friends. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, that was pretty humiliating. Boomer parents, right?
It's terrible. It's terrible. Oh, well, I guess I forgot. She is drunk. She's had schnapps.
Oh, shit. What? Like
Remember, she was drinking with Pat. She was drinking
she had
a lot
of peach schnapps.
She had a lot of peach schnapps.
Got a little silly.
Yeah, I think she got the sillies. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a, yeah. Like, I mean, like for Joyce, I mean, yeah, of course. Like the whole thing is pretty humiliating. Like, I think that it really just boiled over. And I don't know. Like, I do think for Joyce, this whole thing is just like extremely hard to navigate. She's essentially a single parent. Like, you know, she probably has a lot of stress amongst herself about how to deal with all of this. I'm really trying to be like, yes, like it is hard. And, you know, I think like a lot of times when you are wronged by a parent, like you remember all the bad. And then it's sometimes hard to remember like all the times where like, you know, Joyce is an advocate for Buffy and does support Buffy. For example, another storyline throughout this episode is Joyce trying to get Buffy back into school because of course Buffy is kicked out of not elementary school, out of public school. And like she is doing a lot of work. Like she met with the principal. She's like reaches out to the superintendent. She's saying like, hey, like I'm going to go as far as like seeing the mayor, which, you know, we both know is not going to go very well for her, but at least in her mind, she's doing something. And then she's on top of that, she is researching private schools and has reached out to one in particular. It happens to be an all-girls school. So Buffy's kind of like, screw you. You're trying to make me like, you know, be abandoned with a bunch of girls and like, you know, plaid skirts. And it's like, well, Joyce is, you know, running circles trying to, you know, do good for her daughter to get her into school so she can get an education so that she could maybe go to college. I don't know if that's what she wants to do. She's being supportive about for her daughter in order for her to be a Slayer. She's like letting her daughter go out tonight, like at night. Like I thought that she was going to say to Buffy, like, you can't leave the house. Like you have to stay here. You know, there's a lot of like good that Joyce is doing. And I think it's just like so interesting because I did it too. Like I do it too. Like I am very much focused on how much I am wronged by a parent, more so than all of the work that they have done for me to try to like do good for me and be an advocate for me. And I think that it's funny how like even as like an adult watching this show, you and I are both still focused on like the bad that Joyce is doing. And I think it's just natural. Like I think it's like a natural thing.
Well, Buffy is our main character and like, yeah. And Joyce, we don't always get everything from Joyce, but I totally agree with you that like she was trying to get Buffy back into a school, any school, right? Like Buffy even says like homeschooling is an option, and things get very interesting. Principal Snyder is typical Principal Snyder, and he's a dick, and he like absolutely refuses, and not even just refuses, but like basically spits in their face when like they ask for her to come back. And I loved, we haven't talked a ton about Giles. First of all, his reaction to Buffy being back was so adorable and sweet, and like the tiny details on his face are just everything. And I love him so much. But he pulled out Ripper. He was like, bitch, Ripper is coming out and he's going to rip you a new fucking asshole if you don't let my BFF Buffy, my Slayer, the girl that is basically like a daughter to me, come back into the school. I will fucking rip you apart, bro. I am here for it. Daddy Giles, Daddy freaking Giles is all I have to say, because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, Sarah. It's kind of hot. Like what Giles does is hot.
I mean, I think that it's really nice to see like that protective side of Giles. Like I think that throughout the episode, once again, he was like a really great advocate for Buffy. I think like in the very beginning when all the Scoobies were giving Buffy the third degree about where she was and what she was doing, and Giles is like, hey, like let's give her a breather, like she's just settling in. Like later on, you know, understanding that what Buffy really wants is like an intimate time, like truly understanding Buffy. And then of course, like trying to protect Buffy when he figures out about the mask thing and then rushes over to be with her. And then finally going to Principal Snyder and trying to get her back into school. My only concern is that clearly Principal Snyder and the mayor and probably the superintendents as well are no good criminals. They are up to no good. They clearly do not want Buffy to be helping Sunnydale because I believe that they are also demons because everybody is a demon in this show. Mm-hmm. And they probably want the entire place to be taken over by hell and demons and whatever. So Giles being on Principal Snyder's bad side does make me nervous for him because that just makes me think that he's going to wind up targeting Giles. And weapons, if like he's like, yeah, like I don't want you to be the librarian anymore. Like you can't be on school premises because because of X, Y, and Z. Like that kind of just makes me nervous because I just think that Principal Snyder is going to do anything to destroy this school and like subsequently this town and all the people in it.
Yeah, that's really fair. I hadn't thought too much about it, but I do think Giles is very capable of things we haven't even seen yet. Mm-hmm. So I think he could handle little weasel like Principal Snyder. In my opinion, Principal Snyder is first and foremost like not the front man. I'm trying to think of like the wording. Like he's the face. Like he's the guy on the front lines. He's the one who's going to take the heat. He's not as powerful as people like the mayor and other people, right? Like he's the one they chose to just be on the front lines. So in my opinion, he's probably the weakest of that group that's, behind the scenes here. So I think Giles can handle himself. I was just so elated to see the relief on Giles' face when Buffy shows up at his apartment, and like he really cares about Buffy, and you can tell how sad he was and like how hard it was for him to tell Buffy like, sorry, you can't come with us to help us research because you're not allowed on school grounds. Like that was tough, like I think Giles can handle his own. I'm really, really hoping, Sarah, we get more Ripper stuff.
Yeah, we will. I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. So hold on. The only reason why they have to meet at school is because all of the old dusty books are in the school. Is there any?
I guess so.
There is no freaking way that like those books are Giles. Like, why would this school have all of these like vampire monster books? Like, can't he just transport these books to another facility and can't they meet there?
You'd think, but maybe he's also like working at the same time. I don't know. It's just,
I cannot imagine Giles does actual librarian work.
Also, if his whole if being the school librarian is all just like a cover for being able to be a watcher for Buffy, can't he just quit? This is why we need unions, Sarah, because he needs the money so that he can just literally quit his normal like librarian job and go back to being Giles the Watcher, who, is able to do research and able to get solutions quicker so that we don't have a zombie outbreak and people just crashing through windows and doors.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems with the Slayer Watcher headquarters.
Truly, there is.
We still have zero information on it. We still do not know who assigns these positions. And I would like to know. I mean, I would like more information on that. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get it. I think that they're just going to be like, oh yeah, like it's just what happens. It's just her fate.
One other thing I did want to mention in terms of the Scoobies' frustration with Buffy isn't giving them very much either in terms of like where she was, what she was doing. Like she is very cagey and like doesn't want to talk about it, which I think is kind of off-putting for the Scoobies and probably makes them not want to share much either.
Is there a world where Buffy would have opened up more if it was just Giles, Willow, and Xander, and
I think so.
and Cordelia were not there?
You're talking about when they went to Giles's apartment?
Yeah.
I think possibly. I think she needs what Giles says, which is a little bit more of an adjustment time, and then maybe she opens up. But I think it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy or like a circle almost, where it's like Buffy comes back, she's a little bit cagey about what was going on, off-putting to the Scoobies, therefore they're a little bit cold to her, which doesn't exactly make her want to open up about what she's gone through and what she was doing. So I think it kind of just feeds itself, you know? But yeah, it just was something I was thinking about was she doesn't exactly open up, which doesn't really lead them to want to say anything either. I don't know that Oz or Cordy, I especially don't think Buffy gives a fuck what Cordelia thinks. So I think she'd open up in front of Cordelia, no problem.
I guess. I suppose so. Did you feel bad for the cats in this episode?
I mean, the one came back to life. Like that.
No, that cat was dead. That cat
was a zombie cat, right?
It was a zombie cat. I didn't like the cat stuff. I'm like very anti animals in these situations.
I will say I did not like when they buried the cat and Joyce just like threw the bag in the hole. That kind of upset me because that was someone's pet probably. And like maybe you should be a little bit more careful.
Yeah, I
didn't like that.
I didn't like the cat stuff. I feel bad for the cats.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I didn't like it either.
What else did I want to talk about within this episode?
I don't know.
I don't. No. I think that's it. Yeah. I mean, it was fine. Like I really did like the drama. Like I feel as though it got some. It made me like passionate to defend Buffy and to try to understand where everybody was coming from. Oh, I remember what I wanted to talk about. Yes. I wanted to talk about like Willow's witchcraftness.
Yes. She covered a zit.
Yeah. So she talks about that in the last few months, she's been practicing witchcraft. She admits that it's going to take a lot of years for her to become like a full-blown witch, but she has been doing little bits and bobs somewhere, including the glamour that she said, where she covered a zit. And I try to remember like what else she was doing. I just think that she was trying like little charms and incantations, and she's just like working on it. Oh, she tried to summon some demons or some ghosts or whatever, and she said that was very
she
scary.
Said she did a couple pagan blessings, a tiny glamour to hide a zit. She tried to communicate with the spirit world, but she was not ready for that because it was like being pulled apart inside, and she blew out the power for the whole block.
Wow. That is promising. Like that's a lot of power and potential for power. If you can blow out the power for the entire block, that's very promising for Willow's talents and magical powers. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, me too. I'm happy that she's been like practicing and that she's getting little witchy Willow is here to stay. Can I ask you what your favorite insult was? This is the list of insults we had back and forth traded between Buffy and Willow. Runaway, quitter, whiner, bailer, harpy, delinquent, tramp, bad seed, witch, and freak.
I think I liked the delinquent and I liked the witch one. Like I thought that those were both like kind of funny. It kind of reminded me of a scene in Practical Magic. Like I feel as though they did something kind of similar when they were doing the margarita night.
Yeah, can I tell you also, I don't know if I sent any to you because I don't remember now, but like I keep getting TikToks and it's like when one leaf falls off a tree and it's just the scene of them dancing to that song, like 'cause it's like witchy season. Which I love because I could totally like see myself rewatching I could see Practical Magic being like a yearly like spooky season watch for me because it's just vibes, you know.
It is vibes.
Yeah. So good.
I read a witch book. I have like a list of witch books that I found off of something. I don't know.
Was it good? What's the name of it and was it good?
It was Cackle. It was called Cackle. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. It wasn't like tremendous, but it was pretty good. What other witch books do I have on my witch? Okay. Witch books: The Secret Circle, The Last of the Moon Girls, Discovery of Witches, Deliverance Stain, The Three Sisters Island, and The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Those are some witch book recommendations if you're in the spirit to read a witch book. And these are all like, the prompt was like, what are books that are like the movie Practical Magic?
Oh, that's fun. Okay.
See how like it was a relevant thing for me to bring up, but like I forgot to mention why it was relevant. The Practical Magic was the connector. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was all relevant. We were talking about like witchy stuff and like spooky season. That was relevant. We're talking about witches. Like anything is relevant.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really excited to see Willow working on powers and doing her stuff and seeing how that evolves throughout time. And I'll forgive Willow. Like she was, like I said, she was kind of like a little bitchy this episode, but
she admits it. Like she says like, oh, I have to make allowances for what you're going through and be a grown up.
Yeah.
Like she does admit that she.
What do you think? Okay. What are your thoughts on if somebody is going through something and you like, okay, so like I come to you, I tell you like a problem that I'm going through, and you do listen to me and you're sympathetic, but then you tell me a problem that you're having, and then I feel as though you are trying to not
one up or something
or like you're not giving my problem the proper time that it needs. I was kind of thinking about that in this episode. And the reason why is because this situation came up in the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and it became like a big drama because basically what happened, one of the Mormon wives, Whitney, was like, my husband like was on Tinder and was like cheating on me. And then this other girl, Taylor, was like, oh, and like I'm going through some like I lost my baby, like she was pregnant. And then Whitney was mad at Taylor because Whitney felt like this was her time to talk about her problems, and Taylor came in with a whole new problem that evolves around her.
Yeah.
I felt like this was kind of like Willow and Buffy, where like Buffy was like, I'm depressed because I killed my boyfriend and I had to run away. And Willow was like, well, I was a witch and I have a werewolf boyfriend and I'm like, struggling too.
Normally I would agree with you. Like I agree with you about not trying to, sometimes people think they're relating to someone else by being like, oh, I've been through something similar. But a lot of times it either comes off as being a one-upper or just dismissing that problem entirely. I think the difference here is that Buffy's actions are what negatively impacted Willow. They're not two completely independent problems. They're linked. And so I think that's the problem here. But I understand what you're saying. I just think it was like Buffy's trying to be like, but my dead boyfriend. And Willow's like, yeah, but you left. Like, I think it's a little different, but I know what you're talking about.
But more importantly, in the case of Whitney and Taylor,
I truly, This is like a TLC show because it sounds like a TLC show.
Hulu, bitch. It's Hulu.
Don't act like it's like it's not like prestige TV.
It kind of is. I would love to have you watch just one episode of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. It is harrowing. It's addictive.
Okay. Can I ask, how many seasons are there and how many have you seen?
There's only one. It's brand new. It's one season.
It's brand new.
Yeah,
okay.
Brand new. One season, 8 or 9 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Give it a go.
I'll try one episode just so that I can chat with you on the podcast about it. But that's all I'm committing to. I always need background stuff while I'm working anyway.
Yeah, no, it's the perfect background show.
I love a background show. You know that.
Mm-hmm. So I think you should give it a go because it's quick, and then we can just talk about
Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
I think that one of the reasons I can't take it seriously is because of the rhyming. I feel like that's not helping its case.
That's disrespectful to the Mormons.
I know.
Leave them alone.
We did get a piece of feedback from Sarah with an H.
Yes.
So your fellow Sarah, but this time with an H. I'm catching up on all your Buffy episodes. We love that for you. Thank you so much, Sarah. And it was so funny in the Becoming Parts 1 and 2 episode, hearing you talk about how it's hard for you to go into the episodes that you know are big fan favorites. Because yes, this has been driving me crazy. And I think it goes both ways, to be honest, in that I think it can also affect how someone views episodes that they're told are quote unquote bad.
Yeah.
To me, the most interesting thing about Buffy fandom is that I really don't think there's a ton of consensus. This is fascinating to me. This isn't Dawson's Creek, where 90% of the fandom is in agreement on the best ship, the best seasons, the best characters, etc. Buffy fans are all over the place. Every campy episode has its defenders, and someday you'll be one of them. No, you may be one of them, sorry. Every huge arc episode has their detractors. Hey, it's me who thinks Passion is super cringe and that Jenny was clearly marked for death and not that brave of a storytelling choice.
Ooh,
anyway, all this is to say, I do hope you'll be allowed to go in more unspoiled from this point on, or at least maybe take the best worst thing character is coming up with a grain of salt. Love the pod, and I'm putting my vote in for My So-Called Life to be added to the roster. You should be able to knock that out in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't think it's a secret that is like our next intended show that we will cover.
Certainly.
It's one season and it's easily digestible, a la Freaks and Geeks. It will be like our special interim thing. So that is definitely on our docket. I don't know if that's going to be like after Felicity or we're going to take like a couple months to like zip through it. I'm not quite sure what that will be like, but eventually. Yeah,
we'll have to see. We'll have to see because it'll be like life dependent and time dependent for the both of us. And, but definitely it is something that like we're going to cover at some point. It's just a matter of when we're going to cover it. But what do you think about Sarah's assertion here? I really like this. I did not know this, Sarah, that like the fandom is not in consensus about certain things, which I knew. It's like, oh, this is my favorite season. It's season 2. This is my favorite season. It's season 3. Like, but I thought it was more of a Dawson's Creek thing where it's like, no, it's between 2 seasons and everyone agrees that those are the best seasons. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is probably by miles the biggest show with the biggest fandom that we've covered.
Yeah.
And I think with that many people from different walks of life watching it, there's definitely going to be more of a diverse opinion. I'm really curious how ultimately you and I will navigate all of this and how we'll feel about it. I mean, it's fun for me when you and I have different opinions. We see that a lot in our Felicity coverage where we're always beefing the Felicity coverage. And it's just because, like, once again, we come from different walks of life. We've had different experiences. Like, we interpret things different ways. So it would be great if you and I ultimately have different ships or we have different favorite whatevers. If we're like battling against stuff, I think it'll be interesting. And then in terms of like, knowing things are like a good episode or a bad episode, I mean, we kind of do a little bit of like edgic in terms of if we have guests coming from certain episodes, we know that's going to be good. We used to have like Adam for Dawson's Creek used to always come up for the Pacey and Joey breakup episodes or something like that. Remember that? So like I ultimately like knew a breakup or something was coming. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
So, like, it's a little hard when something like that comes along, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think like the best thing of it is that even if we are told things are good or bad, we are independent thinkers and we don't always agree with that. And a lot of the times there's things that like you or I really like Go Fish, which is like honestly the best episode of the series
Top tier.
so far. That, you know, like maybe other people didn't like it, but we did.
We've had plenty of times where we've watched an episode, be it Felicity or Buffy or a different show, and said, oh my gosh, this episode was so great. And we were so surprised because there wasn't a guest or something. And we like actively were really excited about it. Or there's been episodes a la a Go Fish or something else where we've been told, oh, this is such a bad episode. And we're like, it really wasn't that bad. Like it was fine. It wasn't great, but it was fine. So yeah. I'm never too put off by people saying, oh, this upcoming episode is going to be really exciting. Because again, we can form our own opinions. And to a certain extent, that's kind of unavoidable, you know, like, and so I'm not precious. I don't want to be like spoiled on anything, but I'm not precious about people saying, oh, this one coming up is really exciting or something, you know, like that doesn't bother me. But I think it's fascinating what Sara is saying. Sara with an H is saying that this sort of fandom, and I'd love to hear other people's perspectives as well, if anybody has anything to say about it, like that the fandom is very divided on certain things, I think is so interesting. Because I think with some shows, with a lot of shows, it does become, you know, everyone is in on one thing. There really isn't too much of a battle. Like, I guess Dawson's Creek, you could argue like, okay, are you a fan of Joey and Pacey or Joey and Dawson? But I kind of feel like everyone was in the same camp by the end of the show. So I'm interested to see where this goes and like what the other possible ships are. I don't know that we've had a ton of competing ships so far. It doesn't seem like it, right? Like, I guess there could be people that ship Xander and Buffy and Xander and Willow, but it's not like the show. It doesn't feel like the show is trying to get us to do that.
Yeah. Oh, I was curious also about what your thoughts of Angel like popping up in dreams, because
this is weird, right? Like we saw him in the opening credits. Now he's all in the dreams. I mean, is he literally an angel now?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just like curious, like how long this rope is, like how, if we are keeping David Boreanaz in this show and in the credits purely just for him to come to Buffy in dreams.
That seems like it seems like they'd be paying him too much for that. You know what I mean? Like, just for those little things. I mean, is this okay? Anytime someone is seeing someone and they're not actually there, I'm always like, do they have a brain tumor? I don't think Buffy has a brain tumor.
What are you talking about?
Like Grey's Anatomy. This happens on a lot of shows.
I don't watch that shit.
I know. Well, you shouldn't. You definitely shouldn't.
So yeah, I mean, like the only other thing is that we know that Buffy has powers of a seer. Is there a reality that like that Angel is coming to Buffy from another dimension and speaking to her directly?
I think it's possible. Certainly. Yeah. This is freaking Hellmouth. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
I could see that. I could see that being true. I could see him being able to warn her of like something about to go down with like the overall story, not like necessarily a Monster of the Week thing, but like something related to Drew and Spike or something like that. I could see him being the one to deliver that message, whether or not it's her subconscious doing it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like it could be like her subconscious, but then it comes in the form of Angel's advice or guidance.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know. And I'm not looking anything up, so I really don't know. I have no idea when Angel was on in relation to Buffy. Like, what is Angel on now? At this point, we're watching Buffy. I don't think so, but I don't know what spins him off. We thought the finale spun him off, but I guess maybe not. So definitely something we're going to be tracking is the Angel of it all, and the fact that he's only showing up in Buffy's dreams, and whether or not that's him some sort of supernatural effect that he's able to do that, or if it is just her mind and like what she wants to see is him,
Interesting.
But good point. It's definitely something we're going to have to keep an eye on, because I have a feeling it's going to become important at some point.
What is next week's episode called?
Season 3, episode 3, Faith, Hope, and Trick. Does that mean it's Halloween?
I think I know something, but I'm not going to say anything.
I thought you said you hadn't been spoiled on anything.
This is from previous knowledge of the show.
Oh, okay. So something like something you knew before we started podcasting about it?
I don't know. Faith, Hope, and what was the last?
Trick, like trick or treat.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds like a Halloween episode.
I'm excited. We're like actually in the season for it. This is rare that we're like actually in the season of whatever is happening. That'll be exciting.
Yeah.
So that's the next episode. We'll be covering that next week. As always, follow us at Shit90spod everywhere, shit90spod.com. Thank you so much, Sarah, with an H, for your feedback. If you want your feedback to be heard, make sure you send us an email, shit90spod@gmail.com. And check out our Felicity coverage. Beyond that, you can find me at the Jess Sterling. You can find Sarah at Sara Fergenson for all our other podcasting endeavors. Anything else, Sarah?
No, I mean, like, if anybody wants to talk to me about Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, let me know.
Yes.
We're still working on Veep. We're still vopping.
You're vopping.
We're on the last season of Veep.
Oh, wow. How many seasons are there?
6, 7? I don't know.
Okay. We just finished The Americans. So that's done now. We started Reservation Dogs. That's our newest comedy that we've been watching. Okay. It's a good show. You don't know anything about it. You just don't like the name, right?
Is it based off of the movie?
Are you talking about Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Is it not the same thing?
It's not the same thing. Reservation Dogs. I'll read you like what the little blurb is.
I don't know. I don't know if I like it. But
Reservation Dogs, it's a comedy. It's 4 Native American teenagers that grow up on a reservation in Oklahoma and kind of like the shenanigans they get into.
Okay. All right.
It's really good. So we started that, and then I forget what we talked. Will and I had this discussion about what our next drama would be, and I honestly have no idea. I can't remember what it is. But we're starting something else soon now that we finish The Americans. So
cool.
That's it. Okay. Well, if anybody wants to talk about any of those shows, tweet at us. Let us know. And until next time, here endeth the lesson.
Just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.